Hi guys, this is Alex here from Gun Down to House German Shepherds, and today I'm going to put out a video related to a topic I see discussed often on websites like the pedigreedatabase.com and working dog forums and many other such websites. And the topic is, what makes for a good quality puppy? And I thought that was an interesting topic, and I thought, let me put out a video on it and see what you guys think. Now, my remarks are not going to cover every breed. They're probably more specific to the German Shepherd breed, which is my breed. We breed working line German Shepherd that can be a family companion and guardian. We want enough working temperament in the dog that with training, not without training, the dog will not cower in the presence of an attacker and will defend you against a potential threat. But at the same time, we want a dog which is sweet and going to be nice to children and a good family member and a good family friend. And working dogs can be good family pets. Now, it's a mistake to think that working dogs require hours and hours and hours of exercise. That's not true. Mental stimulation and a good game of tug, which is part of playing with the dog to teach it obedience, if you do it that way, it's very effective, can be enough for the dog. And if you do several short sessions a day and walk the dog and occasionally give him a chance to run, that's enough. You don't need hours and hours of exercise for a dog, especially when they're a puppy and their bones are just forming. So I believe the working line German Shepherd retains most of the qualities that the breed originally had, as it was devised by Captain Max von Stephanitz, a Prussian military captain, back in 1899 when he created this breed. So getting back to what makes for a good quality puppy. Well, the question is, how do you define quality? What is quality to you may not be quality to somebody else. In my opinion, a good quality puppy is a puppy that comes from good parents. All puppies are cute. All puppies make you smile. The question is, when that puppy grows up, what it is going to turn out like? Well, it's going to turn out like its parents and grandparents. So when you're buying a puppy, you're buying the pedigree of that puppy, not the puppy itself. That might sound weird, but that's actually what you're buying. A good breeder will do, at a minimum, O.F.A. hip x-rays on their dogs. All of our dogs have O.F.A. hip x-rays. O.F.A. stands for the Orthopedic Foundation of Animals. Now, it's no guarantee that you will have perfect hips and perfect elbows every single time. But it does mean that the breeder took some steps or some precautions to give you a dog with good hip health. Now, in Germany they use the A stamp system, and in America we use the O.F.A. So you have to look for a breeder that adheres to some minimum standards. The minimum standard is a healthy dog. There is testing by a company called EMBARK.com, I'm sure many of you are aware of it, that tests between 129 and 159 canine diseases. Do I care about every single disease as a German Shepherd breeder? No, because Willebrand's disease, for example, or certain diseases are common to some other breeds, like Dalmatians may have a disease which is not common in German Shepherds, and German Shepherds may have a disease which is not common in Dobermans. In other words, every breed has certain conditions which are unique to that breed. One of the diseases which is prevalent in German Shepherds is degenerative myelopathy. That is like Lou Gehrig's disease in people, where the rear spine becomes atrophied because of nerve damage, and the rear legs often have to be in a wheelchair-like device for the dog to walk, and this is a very debilitating disease. Now, this disease comes from having two carriers meet up. So even if one dog is a carrier, you can't eliminate all carriers, because You're not looking for the perfect dog in every sense. That doesn't exist. But if one dog is a carrier, the other parent must not be. In other words, if a carrier meets a carrier, that's when you have a problem. So a good breeder does genetic testing on both partners. And if one partner is known to have this disease and is a carrier, you better make sure the other partner, male or female, depending on which one has it, does not have this disease. So a good breeder will test for diseases common to their breed. In the case of the German Shepherd, that would be degenerative myelopathy. But then again, you can't expect the breeder to test for every disease, give you a hip and elbow guarantee, and a health guarantee. We give a hip and elbow guarantee in our puppy contracts. But at the same time, you expect a terribly low price. I've seen websites like Hobley Classifieds, and I'm not going to mention some of the other websites, where puppies are sold for as little as $450 to $850. Now, at that price range, the breeder doesn't make back the cost of the veterinary costs of doing all these tests on the parent dogs. So you can't expect an extremely low price and at the same time expect every genetic test under the sun to be done by the breeder. So if you're buying a puppy for $1,000 in 2023 and you expect the breeder to have done every possible test, at that price point, that's not possible. So the breeder has to get back some money for their effort in raising the litter, feeding the litter, taking care of the parent dogs. Usually the breeder will own the female and may pay a stud fee to an outside male. He may not own the male, but it definitely will own the females. And there's a lot of work involved in raising a litter of puppies, believe it or not. Hours and hours of work. Not sleeping at night, feeding them every 2 hours, keeping them warm, and so on. I'm not going to go into all the details right now. So you must balance your expectations of a quality puppy with your price point that you're willing to pay. Our puppies are between $2,500 and $4,000 on average, and we can justify that price because of the fact that our dogs are imported from Europe. If you had to import from Europe, you would pay a broker fee and airline costs and so forth. So we did all that trouble for you so we can get the very best standards. And in Europe, German Shepherds are held to a higher standard. Both male and female must have at least a Schutzhund 1 title, which is now called IGP, IGP 1 title. They must do a breed survey called an AD, where the dog runs a 10-kilometer run and then is breed surveyed by a Kormeister, which does a breed survey. So the dog must pass both a confirmation test and a Schutzhund trial before they're bred. Such standards are not required in America. In America, the AKC requires only a purebred male and female with no adherence to any standards. But in Germany and other European countries, there is a higher standard. And that's why we feel imported dogs, which what we sell, or only one generation removed from imported dogs, is giving you a higher quality dog, which was bred to a higher standard. Now, again, what does quality to you mean? Well, quality implies a physical health quality and a certain degree of temperament quality. Now, it goes back to buyer expectations. A lot of buyers expect a puppy instantly available to them whenever they're ready to buy. It's a vendor machine psychology. But puppies are not born on demand. They're not produced. They're born. And so if you want the breeder, whenever you're ready, at the last minute to make a decision and expect to get a puppy any time of year, anytime you want to, that is the wrong psychology. So the puppy you get will be whatever is available to you at that time of the year when you're ready at the price point you want to pay. That is not quality. That is simply what is available, which may not be quality, or maybe. But the psychology of buyers when it comes to buying puppies must change. It is not a vending machine psychology. Good breeders plan their litters well in advance, and you should be prepared for a 10-month waiting list. Why 10 months? Well, because from the moment a female is pregnant, gestation is 63 days, and then the puppies have to be at least 8 weeks old before they go to their new homes. So if you take 60 days for the pregnancy and 60 days for them to be old enough to go home, that's 4 months. That's if you put the deposit in at the time she was bred. If you put the deposit in before the female was even bred, then there's a certain amount of lead time you need for that litter to be planned. So good breeders will have a buyer's list and a waiting list. The ideal is a breeder that plans their litters in advance. A breeder that thinks about what qualities they're looking for in their dogs. A lot of breeders don't breed back-to-back their females. They let the female mother dog recover between litters because average German Shepherd litter is at least 6 puppies. Many times it's 9 to 12 puppies. I've heard cases of as many as 14 puppies. That's very taxing on a female dog. A good breeder does not overbreed their females. They're part of the family and a family pet and is very much loved and cherished and not just used for production. It's not a factory, it's a living thing. And if a breeder treats his females as production because the buyers demand puppies all year long, think about what quality means in a case like that. That means that breeder is using his females like breeding machines because you, the buyer, demand that. So think about that next time you want a puppy immediately. It's just not possible. In nature, wolves have puppies only once a year, not twice a year, when food is available, which means the pregnancy happens in November for the puppies to be available and viable by spring, but there's plenty of game for the wolves to catch and then feed the puppies that game, rabbits and rodents and deer and whatnot. So a good breeder does not breed back-to-back many times. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, but you should understand the breeding cycle in demanding an immediacy in your puppy. So it doesn't just come down to what the breeder offers you, it also depends on what you think you offer the breeder. A good breeder wants his puppies to go to good homes, and that means you are willing to wait for the right puppy from the right breeder. Now, another thing I would advise you as a puppy buyer is to watch out for breeders which breed only for a single characteristic. For example, there are some people which advertise unique shepherds. They breed panda shepherds. Panda is a color mutation gene in the German shepherds. It makes the German shepherd look kind of like a collie. That is not the breed standard. The breed standard is not panda. Watch out for breeders which breed unusual colors like liver or blue. The liver gene is a color dilution gene of the black gene. I made a series of the colors acceptable in the German Shepherd. A link will appear in the description below of what is acceptable colors in the German Shepherd. Black, sable, black and tan, black and red. These are all acceptable colors in the German Shepherd. Blue, panda, and liver are not acceptable colors. So if a breeder is focused on breeding the unusual or the extreme, that is not a good breeder. Also, I would avoid breeders that focus exclusively on one characteristic only. For example, there's a lot of breeders which breed long-coated German Shepherds. Those are very good-looking dogs. But if they only breed for the long coat and nothing else, that is a breeder focused on marketing strategy and a certain price point because that's a limited supply of dogs with that characteristic. They need to breed for the total animal. If the breeder breeds for long coats and short coats and has other outstanding qualities in their dogs, that's fine. But if a breeder only focuses on this one attribute, that is not a breeder that is focused on the total dog. A dog is a complex animal of polygenetic traits. In other words, you can't breed only for a single trait. An animal like us has polygenetic traits, many traits which make up its genome. And you cannot breed for a single trait only, and that's the entire focus of your breeding program. The same thing is true of breeders which breed only black German Shepherds. Black is a recessive gene in German Shepherds. It must be either both parents are black or both parents must carry the black gene. To guarantee black, the breeder only carries black dogs. Now, there's nothing wrong with black dogs. I have black dogs too. But I don't specifically breed for that only. In other words, some of my dogs are sable but carry the black recessive. But I don't exclusively focus on that characteristic alone as the basis of my breeding program. So watch out for breeders which breed only for a specific trait, one trait, as their only focus, and their website is dedicated to that exclusive focus. So to summarize, a quality puppy has had health testing of its parents. It usually has some kind of titles in the parent's pedigree. Now let's talk about titles. A lot of times you will see the word CH for champion in a dog's pedigree. This is common in the AKC pet lines or the American show lines, the ASL. You will not see that in the West German working lines or show lines. You will see titles like SCH for Schutzhund 1, 2, or 3, or it was called IPO and is now called IGP. So you will see IGP 1, 2, 3. You might see TR1 tracking 1, TR2 tracking 2, OB1 obedience 1, OB2 obedience 2. But you're not going to see CH in the European dogs. You're going to see that more in the American dogs. Now, a CH title, champion title, means the dog passed the show ring. He pranced around with that trot that they call the flying trot that the dog has been bred for. Usually the rear angle is severely crooked, where the spine is severely curved, and the dog walks practically on its hocks, or many times they walk on their hocks. That is not a proper canine anatomy, in my opinion. And the straight back, more correct structure is more common in the working lines than in the show lines, to my understanding. Now, but what does champion mean in the pedigree, and does it matter? Well, most families are looking for a dog that will not startle easily and not frighten easily. Now, will a champion dog in the show ring have that attribute? It may or may not. Most families want a dog which is good with children and safe around children. Does having a champion title in a show ring guarantee that? No. Most people want a dog that recovers easily, is self-sufficient, confident in whatever environment it's in, assured in itself that it's confident. Now, don't get me wrong, part of that is training and nurturing and how the dog was socialized, but part of it is genetic. Fear and shyness is a genetic attribute, in my opinion, and you want to breed away from that. And breeders which carry show dogs, which shiver and shake, those are not dogs you want puppies from. Now, will a dog with Schutzhund titles exhibit those characteristics? Likely not, because the demands of that dog sport demands a more brave and less fearful dog in order to achieve those titles in the first place. A very fearful dog would not have been past a BH, which is the initial temperament/obedience title before the dog goes on for an IGP 1, 2, or 3. The BH is the first step before the additional steps in the titling process take place. So, can working dogs make good pets? The answer is yes. Do you have a guarantee of good temperament as a result of these tests? I think your odds are much better than a dog which only has show titles, because the dog has high biddability. In other words, it wants to please. It has a high aptitude for obedience, because it comes from a line of dogs which have shown aptitude and obedience. It takes a very special dog not to break down command after command for a 15-minute routine, which is how long a BH routine approximately lasts. And a dog which can maintain focus and drive and focus on the handler, although it's a trained behavior, it takes certain genetic attributes to be able to perform this behavior. So only a dog which is very biddable or highly desiring to please will show these characteristics. If you're buying a Labrador Retriever, where every dog in that Retriever family had obedience titles from the AKC, for example, that's a dog which is very likely to be easily trained in obedience. But if the dog had no titles in its parents of any kind, well, it might be a good dog, but if you're only looking for a couch potato, that may satisfy you. So the other question is to ask yourself, what are you looking for? Are you the right home for that breed that you're looking for? Not every person is right for every breed. That's a question you must ask yourself. Are you the right person for this breed and what this breed demands? There's 150 years of breeding or more in some breeds. If you get a border collie, which is going to herd sheep genetically, and you put it in the living room and you want it to watch TV with you and nothing else, that's not a good match. So what I'm saying is there's a set of expectations between buyer and seller, and you have to ask yourself, what are my expectations? A, am I willing to wait? What's my price point? Do I have the money for the veterinary care of this animal before I buy it? Remember, the initial purchase price of a dog is only a small percentage of what you're going to spend over the lifetime of that dog. And it's a 12 to 14 year commitment. Are you prepared to make that kind of a commitment? If you are, and you feel we're a good match for what you offer, I would appreciate you considering this. But keep in mind, we have a waiting list, we have a certain price point, but we offer a certain quality. But I hope this information has been useful to you in your understanding of what you're looking for and how we define quality. Take care. Have a great day.